Councilmember Applegate, we're just testing to make sure you can hear.
Yeah, I can hear you.
If you're talking, I can't hear you.
Because my iPad wants to update now.
You're on the city.
Testing. Councilmember Applegate, testing.
I can hear you.
Madam Scott. So Councilmember Applegate is online. I'm assuming he can hear us, but we can't hear him.
Yeah, fixing his audio.
Okay.
You can't hear me?
Do we want to wait a couple minutes, or do we want to go ahead and start? Give it a couple minutes?
Yeah. It's not
Okay, we'll wait just a couple minutes, everybody. We're having an audio issue with Councilmember Applegate online. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Corey, if you can hear us,
can hear you.
answer.
I can hear you.
Oh, we can hear you now too. Perfect. Okay. Okay, I'm calling to order the Fountain City Council meeting for December the 10th, 2024. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Roll Call, clerk, please. Oh, I said that backwards, didn't I?
Mayor
Try it again.
Thompson,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Rick,
Present am I.
Councilmember Hinton. Here. Councilmember Applegate,
Here.
Councilmember Estes,
Here.
Councilmember Hersberg,
Here.
Councilmember Duncan.
Present.
I have 7 members present.
Okay, I will try not to speak in Yoda anymore tonight. All right, that takes us to item 4.1, presentations, Economic Development Department update. I do not see Ms. Kim. Oh, there you are, way over there. Good
Evening,
evening.
Council. Evening, Mayor. Appreciate it. I guess you're running the slide deck. I don't see a clicker. Oh, oh. Again, good evening. Kimberly Bailey, Economic Development, Urban Renewal for the City of Fountain, providing you a brief update on what we've been working on through the last this year alone and what's kind of on the forecast for the early part of next year. Just give you a little heads up on a few things coming to your attention. So just a little education 101. Urban Economic Development is the youngest department that was established by council in 2007. They're to work on business growth, expansion, and attraction for the community and the services of need. Thereafter, council established Urban Renewal Authority under state statute, which addresses slum, blight, deteriorating conditions in a community that deter private investment. Under that scope and premise, we oversee several master plans. That does include actually 5 existing urban renewal areas today. So it's a lot of bandwidth that we do cover. We do actually govern and work with committees and boards. One of them is the Old Town Steering Committee. It's an organic working group that brings together property owners, business owners, investors in the community, and really try to address needs of the Old Town District specifically. Economic Development Commission works on behalf of identifying hindrances of entrances for business, as well as educate and propose solutions for business needs. We are actively recruiting for the Economic Development Commission, so anybody that's in the audience that would like to support and serve, we are looking for applications by February of 2025. And then lastly is the Urban Renewal Authority that's established by council, but we actually report and are governed by the state statute under urban renewal. And per our bylaws, we start our new year in January. And one of your seated council members, Councilmember Hersberg, actually is appointed to the Urban Renewal Authority. What is economic development, urban renewal? It's a lot of coverage in different areas, but this is a snippet of kind of the particular program and of engagement. We oversee and administer 27 incentive programs for the community at large for business attraction and development. We have 5 business corridors that we're always trying to pay attention to and address the needs of those particular businesses. We do a lot of visioning, planning, grant writing, acquisition of funds, hopefully to perpetuate investment in the business corridors of the community. And we also do respond to business outreach, whether it's existing businesses or businesses that are looking for site location placement along the Colorado Front Range. In addition, we do technical training and resources and education around business. And then we also do respond to trends and policies and needs that may come to us through council, naturally, of course. So, in the last 3-year cycle, with the strategic plan boards behind me, we actually were issued 5 strategic objectives with 1 staff person. And I'm glad to say that we've completed all 5 of those, in addition to the litany of lists of things that we covered in the previous slide. The only one that hasn't been completed is, I'm looking for my green marker, this one down here. Actually, D13 was abstained and rescinded based on our advocacy of recommendation. We need a few more fundamental resources to actually update the economic development strategy. One of those does include a comprehensive land use plan revision that is necessitated for the effectiveness of a new strategic plan. So in replace of that, we instituted the wayfinding signage system plan that went out to bid earlier this year, and we are working diligently on those factors as well at this time. So what were some of the highlights from 2024? We did engage in a community challenge program, and they provided us the outcomes of recommendation towards invigorating private assets and trying to allure and attract more business investment in the community. And we're working on those findings going into 2025. We also did complete an inaugural business education series, and that was thanks to the council supporting and appropriating funds to add 1 more new staff person to the Economic Development Division, Nate Shaw, who's with us this evening. There's been a lot of return on that investment throughout this year already, and more highlights to come, so thank you for that support. In August, we also did the Business Recognition Month for community awareness of Old Town, and specifically, our investments this year have been in business visits and visitations and surveys throughout our businesses at large. So every couple of years, we typically do this. However, due to the COVID snafu in our universe, this did not get completed for 5 years. And so we are really, really pertinent in driving that attention today in this current year. Wayfinding plan, I already talked about among the 5 business districts, and trying to capture that retail leakage. Under the old comprehensive land use plan, it was already articulated we were losing millions of dollars to retail leakage. This is only perpetuated with the growth of our community, and we'd like to make sure that we can continue try to capture and retain those consumer dollars. Affordable housing, Prop 123, was also on our highlights this year. Legislation and regional alliances around passenger rail versus freight rail is really important to be particular to our radar, and that's why we've been involved in those proceedings. And then a succession of brownfield grant fundings is where we have been stewarding our efforts, specifically the Lorraine site, which is owned about 4 blocks east of us right now where we are. It's a city-owned asset, trying to revitalize that and remove the blight of that condition of property and allow, again, that private investment to enter through affordable housing models. And then particularly highlighted this year was the inaugural Career Pathway Summit with the Fort Carson School District 8. They've never really paid attention to the pipeline of transfer. Any education facility is really lacking in this, not just District 8. But the transfer of that young youth talent into apprenticeships, into a growing workforce pipeline. And they really just got really strategic about that initiative this year, and we were part of that advocacy under Economic Development Commission, per se. So that's your highlights for 24. We are starting, as you know, as council has adopted the new strategic plan, and under that new strategic plan, there are a litany of areas. The uniqueness in this one is we have additional resource staff under economic development to help the bandwidth measure, but this one will actually cross-pollinate with several other departments. So out of the 7 strategic objectives that economic development shall participate in, only 2 are under our authority to kind of administer and execute. The other 5, we will work with synergies with other departments to bring that deliverable upon. So what's our new year look like going into Q1, Q2, 2025? I'm pleased to say that we've been selected to be a guest presenter for Fountain at the Saving Places Historic Preservation Conference coming up at the end of January. That typically only takes place in Denver. This year, it will take place in Colorado Springs. And Tamara Estes, Councilmember Estes, serves a lot in historic preservation. So we're really excited to feature a local property and a project at a state conference this year. And so we just wanted to give you those highlights. Also, what's coming down the pipe pike is the inaugural State of Business Findings Report will be disclosed to you in January. As we said, 2024 has immersed ourselves in this process, and we're really looking forward to providing you this first report. In addition, we're completing that last strategic objective under wayfinding system signage plan and the implementation of a phased-in approach, and then, of course, the reciprocal budget needs that will come with that. So that should come to you sometime by the latter half of Q1 of next year. The Old Town Open House and Main Street training and designation will happen in the first quarter. And then the Lorraine site cleanup grant that we have in, we are hopeful for an award sometime in the spring cycle. So we will keep you attuned to that progress under that federal initiative that we've reached out for. In addition, we received recent news that we were also awarded EPA technical assistance dollars under brownfields. That will run us for 6 months from April through October next year. And that is specific to the Urban Greenway and the Blast Corridor to create some better access, increase pedestrian mobility, and provide an enhanced safe routes to school corridor in the district of Old Town. And then, as Councilmember Estes has been pretty intricate working with Nate so far, I'm not even going to try to say this word because this is not my forte, but the A250 initiative, which is the centennial anniversary of the United States at 250 years, but also the state of Colorado centennial year happens in 2026. And so there's some historical recognition, markers, awareness that we're working on collaboratively to bring some awareness to our history in the city of Fountain. So that concludes economic development. The other hats that we wear is also under urban renewal, and as I said, that was established in 2008. We work on more mass, large-scale development, such as destination retail in South Academy Highlands District, the Southern Colorado Industrial Rail Park of Charter Oak URA, and then also the Bandley Corridor has a URA designation area, which was a former manufacturing facility. So under that, we also work under community placemaking with town design, Main Street development, or redevelopment is as I would codify it, and then that pedestrian mobility access for Old Town. So you're not really relying on a transit means of mobility, that there are multiple means and access, quicker access to services is our goal for the Old Town corridor. And then, as I said in the opening, under state statute, our primary mission is blight and remediation within the district properties. And so we've worked on that through some property acquisition, revitalization, and then passing and fulfilling that mission by making sure that that asset goes back to the private sector through a purchase and an acquisition process. So it's always important that those fall back into the tax rolls for the city. So with that, just a quick highlights of what's been going on in 2024. We established the 5th Urban Renewal District with your support for the South Academy Highlands Part 2 Urban Renewal District area. We greatly appreciate that. And then we also did the adaptive reuse of Woodman Hall, which is your property across the street from City Hall. The second floor is completely filled with small business operations such as health and wellness and rejuvenation type of services. And the ground floor, we're working currently with a interested prospect to build out the first floor, opening next year. The enterprise zone was established by the county and the state for that property, and we'll be launching a capital campaign for that property at the Sunpine next year. And then also the property tax legislation around TIF. And then we also, as an Urban Renewal Authority, co-sponsored the wayfinding signage campaign with the city. So it's very important to support business and small business entry, and that was a way that we could partner with the city under urban renewal funding initiatives. So on the horizon for 2025, just some pending legislation with upcoming legislation with the state capitol in January. So there's some things underway with urban renewal legislation rulings and laws of use of effectiveness in communities. Then we're working also on addressing the blight and remediation and infrastructure projects and working with our city partner. Also launching that campaign for the urban renewal or Woodman Hall property. And then we continue to be positive for activating that US 85 pad site. So pre-COVID, we assembled that pad site at 1.14 acres. It's in a highly visible corridor, lots of great traffic pattern. We're just not finding the right user yet. And we want to make sure we fulfill the needs of the district is our primary goal. And then, as I said, we are working currently on executing a lease for that ground floor for Woodman Hall. So more to come on that announcement in the new year. And so this is your Woodman Hall property, for those that aren't familiar with the property across the street, but this is the Vitality and the Catalyst project that we are really, really invested in on behalf of the community needs at large. So with that, I'm going to close with some critical needs, business support resources, communications, resource programs, and even partnerships. The two areas that we cover for our department are not easy endeavors. And so it's kind of hard to understand how we work, why we work on behalf of community initiatives. And so any advocation or education that you can utilize on our behalf would be greatly appreciated. Both avenues of economic development and urban renewal are a marathon. They are not overnight successes. They are not a single year success sometimes. And so it's really, really important to keep the pace, keep the messaging of communications, and trying to make sure we're steering the ship in the right way on behalf of the community. And then lastly is tactful utilization of incentives and or the urban renewal mission itself. Remember for council that these are means of Tabor exemption. So any time that we can use any incentives or urban renewal empowerment to procure or support business development in our community will help cover your general revenue incomes that will come from those developments. And I think that's about it. Just trying to give you a quick snapshot of where we have been and where we're going.
Thank you, Kimberly. A lot of information. Any questions from anybody? Councilmember Rick.
You go back to the second slide, please. Okay, next slide. Next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide. I'm looking for it and I don't see it. I thought I saw something to where you needed budget allocations from the council. Did I misread that or?
No, I didn't ask for any budget allocations from council. As we've worked through the budget process, we're good and healthy at this time. My comment I made here was that in the early half of 23, you did appropriate additional funding for an additional staff member.
Okay.
And I think that's probably what you're referring in my scripture that I was relaying to you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Apologize.
Sure.
That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
No, it's okay. That was a lot of information. Thank you very much. No questions up here? All right. Thank you very much, Kimberly. All right. That takes us on to item 4.2, Board, Commission, and Committee appointments. There are none. Item 5, correspondence, comments, and ex officio reports. Mr. Trainer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have one item. Just, it seems extremely early, because it is, but this is the time of year we start thinking about and gearing up for the legislative session. So we had our first legislative committee workshop, not really a workshop, but kind of a get-together roundtable with some of our representatives earlier this week. Now Woodland Park is a partner with us, which is kind of exciting. I think it's going to strengthen that partnership even more. And the only reason I'm saying this is because as you, starting now through, the winter months, as you start hearing about legislation that you think is really important that we got to key in on, just give us a heads up. Because then the mayor and I and Deetra, who also sits on that, we can make sure that we're keeping our legislative advocate, our lobbyist, tied in with that as well. So just wanted to kind of put that on your radar so that in the months upcoming, you can be thinking about it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Evans. Shauna?
Nothing, ma'am.
Either chief?
No, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor, Council. Good evening. Just a couple of quick things. I attended the graduation for the Pikes Peak Law Enforcement Academy last week, and we're grabbing one officer out of that class. So that's good. Brigadier General Ferris from Fort Carson as part of the military breakfast I went to last week, advised that 4,000 troops are headed back home, and will be probably on the ground now, if not in the next week. So all their equipment, all their stuff, this is the group that's been out in Poland and helping with that mission. So 4,000. So this will be the first time in several years that Fort Carson, all of their troops will be back. Nobody will be out deployed for the moment. So just kind of the more traffic and more folks in the neighborhood. So that'll be good to get them back. And lastly, the Fountain North Pole, the former Blue Santa, now it's called Fountain North Pole, District 8. Conservatively, we're going to be serving 500 families in the next couple of weeks for gifts and stuff for the families. So District 8, with their partnership, has really taken that off to new levels this year, and this is the first year that we're doing it really with them. And so we're looking forward to great things. But at 500 is a conservative number. It's going to be more than that, but that's what I'm qualified to say right now. Other than that, have a great night. Thank you.
If somebody wanted to donate to that fund for gifts, great place would be to come to volleyball tournament.
Absolutely. December 13th, I'll be there playing volleyball.
Okay.
Lord help us all. But yes, December 13th is the volleyball over at the middle school. And yeah, donations, toys, gifts, money, however you want to do that. We'll always take the donations at the police department as well and get them to where they need to go, or District 8 can take the donations as well.
Or money.
Yes, money, gift cards, whatever the community can give is always fantastic.
The really fun thing about the games, the volleyball game you guys do, is just the people who haven't been before, if you're going to go, bring some extra cash. Because you can play to have the opposing team sit out people. You can pay to have them put on like drunk driving goggles that they have to play volleyball with them on. All sorts of, goofy stuff. So it just kind of helps you raise the money for the evening and
Yeah,
make
it's
it
a
a little
good
bit more
time,
fun.
and we always raise a lot of money for the cause, so it's always a good time to come out that night.
Yeah.
What time is that, Chief?
I think 6 o'clock on December 13th over at the middle school.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, all righty. Back row, anybody in the back row? No? Okay, city clerk's office?
Yes, I just wanted to put a reminder out that the December 24th meeting, for obvious reasons, was changed to next week, December 17th. So we will all be here again next Tuesday. Other than that, that's all I got. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. IT, anything? Okay, all righty. How about you, Fred? Did you have a busy week? Couple weeks? Anything?
No, just family over for the holidays.
Okay, no meetings or stuff?
No meetings, no meetings.
Oh, man, how'd you look?
I did, I lucked out.
All right, Councilmember Estes, anything?
I'm going to say the word for Kimberly for our 250th. It's a semi-quincentennial, semi for half, quin for 5, and centennial. That's the only way I can remember it, semi-quincentennial. And that's for the United States. For Colorado, it's our sesquicentennial, which is 150 years. So if you have any connections in the community, I strongly encourage you to start looking at celebrations that will celebrate those events in 2026. And Nate is a great contact for that. He serves with the local organizing committee that will help oversee these events and get you the publicity you need and stuff. So any businesses or anything doing that, everything is strongly encouraged to help us celebrate those milestone anniversaries for us. That's all I have.
All right, Councilmember Hersberg? No? Councilmember Applegate, anything tonight? No? Okay, Councilmember Duncan? I don't have anything. Okay, all righty, Councilmember Rick?
First off, I want to recognize and thank Fountain Up for the miracle on Main Street last weekend. Thanks for everything that you've done for the community. And I know it's a little early, but please be safe on Christmas Eve. Avoid Nakatomi Plaza. Don't want a repeat of 1988.
Oh,
And remember, there's two types of people in the world. One that thinks that Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and those that are wrong. So that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
it took me a long time to even think of the one scene that they call it a Christmas movie for, so, all right. Yes.
Mayor Thompson, I had something real fast.
There you go. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I think you skipped over me because I cut out. I lost you for a split second. The one thing I wanted to report on was I went to the Board of County Commissioners meeting this morning. This was a special one because our current county commissioner, Lajinos Gonzalez, and Stan Vanderwerth as well, Commissioner 3, they were terming out. So they did their proclamations to the council or to the commission and told everybody, hey, say, we're on our way out. This is what we achieved for the community. We hope to continue to, see you guys and serve. So, but I just want to give a big shout out to our commissioner, Lajinos Gonzalez. I mean, that guy went to so many meetings at Fountain. I mean, he was just everywhere, it seemed like. So just my hat's off to him for putting in 8 great years, just really helping the southeast end of the county any way he could, especially our city.
Yeah, thank you. I was planning on attending that this morning, but I couldn't get my car out of the garage. And it was a little too cold to go out there and try shoveling it, so I figured I'll catch them maybe next week, so thank you. Alrighty, well, meetings don't take holidays. I want to echo what Councilmember Rick said about Fountain Up. Not only did you do a great job for the kids with the shopping, but this ice sculpture that you guys sponsored for the mayor's, or just the tree lighting, was spectacular, and I can't believe how many people were going up there and taking photo ops with it. I did have one suggestion from a community member, Scott, in terms of the tree lighting ceremony. I thought it was a pretty good one. They really loved the choir, but they couldn't see them. And so they thought maybe if we think about potentially them being on the steps with some lights on them in the next time, and then turn the lights out when they're finished, that might make it a little bit more enjoyable, and then the parents could see their kids a little bit better. So I thought that was a good suggestion. And but the carving was really popular. I reached out to the D3 Mesa Ridge High School principal this week. Spoke with her this morning on the incident that happened when they had their pre-end of season game with the slurs that were in their locker room. Told her that was, we were all aware of it, and we didn't want their season to end on that note. So I invited them to come to our next council meeting, and we would be more than happy to recognize them, have them do the flag salute for all the hard work that they put on the season, making it as far as they did, because that's what we want to honor them for, and we want to try to help them end their season on a high note. So I emailed Joni and Scott with that, so hopefully she'll be getting back with you guys, and we'll be able to include them next week. So if not that, January, so. But they were very appreciative of the comments and knowing that we supported them. Attended the long-range transportation planning, the plan that's in, and that includes specialized transit. So they will be getting that study out there for comments. So hopefully, Scott, we can disseminate that to people, and we can get some comments back on that long-range transit plan, because that's the 2050 long-range. It's not quite ready for distribution, but they will. They'll get it out to us, and we will get comments back on that. And that's for community comment time also, so that hopefully you can talk about what you want your federally funded roads to look like. So this not our city streets; these are federally funded roads, and the plans that are coming. And they had a lot of good suggestions with specialized transit. That's I'll pass along to you, Todd, that your department can kind of look at. Also went to an Aging in Place seminar that was put on by the Area on Aging. They had Tatiana Bailey there, and then they had a panel talking about people that are wanting to age in place. The biggest encouragement they had for people who want to age in their homes is start around 50 or 55. Don't wait till you're in a crisis and you can't get home from the hospital because there's no ramp to get you in the door at your house. So they can start working with you and making a plan. These are not organizations that do this for any money, but Silver Key and Area on Aging and Brothers will come out, and those you can find all those at Area on Aging, and help you make a plan for what you just might need to do to age in place in your own home, because we all know that's the best mentally, emotionally, and usually financially for most people. So those are all resources that are available in the community. We had a great utility work session talking about that we all were at, talking about a report that came out from the Utilities Department. And if you haven't had a chance to study that report, hopefully it's still on the banner on the city webpage. You can get all the information on that and help us study it, make some decisions for long-term planning for our Utilities Department. Nothing in that report has been adopted or accepted yet, so we're looking for feedback and to study the best way to handle things. All righty, so that takes us on to item 6, public comments to be heard. I don't have any white cards, so you have a quick second while I read this, if somebody wants to fill one out. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be approved with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately and I just read the wrong one, so let's start that one all over again. I was trying to rush it before I lose my voice, so Fred, you go ahead and read it this time. How's that? Citizens, public to be heard.
Yeah. Public to be heard. Citizens may address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Council may not be able to provide any intermittent answer, but will direct staff to follow up. Out of respect of the council and others in the attendance, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less.
Okay, like I said, I don't have any cards, so I don't see anybody jumping up and running down front. Do we have anybody online? No? Did I mess something up again, the way you're looking at me? Okay,
I was going to read consent agenda for you if you.
I would appreciate that, thank you.
Next is item 7, consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be approved with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen requests so, in which case the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately at the discretion of the council. We have items A and B. What would the council like to do?
Okay, thank you. On item A, we do have a small correction to our minutes. We've all been handed a copy of it, and it's not substantive. So we can go ahead and make the motion just with that as an amendment unless somebody else had another correction. Go ahead.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Councilmember Henton.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Councilmember Applegate, how do you vote?
Yes.
I have 7 yes, motion carried.
Okay, thank you very much. That takes us on to item A, old business. There is none. Item 9, new business. Item A, consideration of items removed from consent agenda when nothing was removed. Item B, Councilmember Estes, why don't you go ahead and read that in?
Item 9B, resolution number 24-039, a resolution amending the appropriation of fiscal year 2024 budgeted funds.
Ms. Dale.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Chris, I lost the clicker, so if you could just go for me. So tonight I bring you the last budget appropriation for the 2024 fiscal year. The City Council adopted the 2024 budget on December 12th, 2023, and has since approved 2 previous budget amendments for 2024, one on April 9th and then one on September 10th of this year. Since then, city personnel have identified additional necessary expenditures and revenues corresponding with some of those expenditures that were not included in the original budget. Also, please keep in mind these supplementary budget requests are standard processes and are also considered best practices as part of the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. So with that, I'm going to go into the spreadsheets that were in Exhibit A in your packets. And I apologize, I had to cut off the expenditures. I normally try and keep all the revenues together and the expenditures together, but I couldn't get them all onto one slide this time without it being microscopic. I will tell you the brunt of the request tonight for this budget has to do with insurance proceeds and damages to the city buildings and the city vehicles and the fleet from the hailstorms that we received this summer in both July and August. Those were the 2 really big ones. We don't have everything finalized yet with CIRSA, but we have really good estimates for the repairs to both the buildings and the vehicles. So with that, we are looking at approximately $400,000 in the general fund as revenue coming in from our insurance for those repairs. And then on the expenditure side, and again, I apologize, I know this is cut off and kind of small. So on this first part for the general fund expenditures, the brunt of what we have here are additional third-party planning consulting services, which would be paid for out of salary savings, which is that, if I can find this, so that's the reduction here in salaries and then an increase into other professional services to pay for those costs. Additionally, we have some needs that have come up with the streets department for an additional salt and sand spreader, a snow plow mount for one of the new streets units that did not come with that, and an additional $8,000 in utility locate services for the streets projects. That was a new program that we started in 2024, and unfortunately, we underestimated the cost of that. This finishes out, this second slide here finishes out the expenditures for the request for the general fund for this budget supplement. This is all from the hailstorms in July and August, and you can see that we had significant damages to both the fleet and the buildings that we're still trying to finish. The ones with an asterisk that you see here, these were actually ones, and you'll see my note down here at the bottom, these were actually ones from the 2023 hailstorms that were also significant that we just could not get finished before the end of the year. So we received those revenues in 2023, but we could not get the repairs completed and paid for until January and February of this year. So if you look in total at the bottom there, we're looking at total expenditures for the general fund of $899,000. And that would be a reduction in the unassigned reserve fund balance of about $437,000. Excuse me. Moving on to the water fund. The water fund, we've got insurance proceeds again from the hailstorm, but the biggest piece of this on the revenue side is the $6.7 million, which is the remainder of the ARPA proceeds and the interest received on the ARPA account. You actually all approved the expenditures that are tied to this on the April 9th budget supplemental, the first one that we did. And so if you notice at the bottom, we've got an increase in the net position of the $6.7 million, which offsets the negative $6.7 million we had on the first supplemental back in April. On the electric side is just insurance and hail damage proceeds. And some of theirs, they have a reduction in their net position of about $12,000. And that, again, is just due to the 2023 hailstorms where we received the revenue in 23, but we couldn't complete the repairs until January and February of this year. And then lastly, we have the transportation fund. Again, insurance proceeds and damages from hailstorms. So this is a net zero to the net position for the transportation fund. We're receiving the same amount of revenue for what we're expending. And then on the ambulance side of things, the only thing we have in the ambulance is the $300,000 transfer into the ambulance fund from the general fund that we had previously discussed as part of that Medicaid repayment. So with that, pending any questions, we would like to recommend that council approve this last budget supplemental for the fiscal year 2024.
Councilmember Hinton, did you have a question?
I do. So, Shauna, can you just help me explain, with all the hailstorms that we've had over the past, 5, 6 years,
Yep.
Is there any way that we're thinking about trying to prevent for our fleet vehicles, like some type of covering or something like that? Because my fear is that insurance can not cover you because of all the the hails that you've had. Are we trying to do anything to do any preventive on our vehicles, things of that nature?
We have actually had some internal conversations about some different solutions to that, but we have not landed on a good one yet. And I know Scott will probably want to speak to that more. But in addition to that, CRSA actually just launched a new program, and Todd and Bob can both speak to this as well, where they've got an early warning system now that is free to all CRSA members, to where we would get notified in advance from CRSA saying there's a potential big storm coming your way. You might want to take care to cover some of your apparatus in your vehicles, just to try and minimize some of that impact as well. But I'll let Scott talk about the solutions for covering the fleet.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's a new program, which we're excited about. We hope it helps us for sure. But one of the challenges with insurance is that we pay out very little, which is a good thing, right? Insurance pays out the vast majority of that. One of the things we've done is reached out to CRSA to find out, hey, rather than spending all this money on insurance claims, why don't you support us and help us build some coverings for some of our vehicles? Let's be more proactive, because otherwise we're going to keep coming back every year. And we haven't been told no, but it's so far outside of their wheelhouse of what's normal. It's going to be navigating through the organization and find out if that's doable or not. The other thing that we've even talked about is, hey, how about you guys let us, when we have these new vehicles, we know we're going to have a hailstorm that just got damaged by a hailstorm. We know we're going to have another one next year, and probably another one the next year. How about you guys just let us wait until the end of life on this thing, and then we'll get it fixed so that we get the full value of that thing going back rather than fixing it every year? And that one, we have been told, no, we're going to fix it every year. Okay, well, that's your money, your insurance money, which is our pool money, right? Because we're part of a large insurance pool. So it's just interesting, some of the thought processes that they have. But one of the things we've talked about are coverings, and how do we potentially do that? And the hope is that we could get, because they're expensive, and they're far more than we pay for our insurance costs. And so the hope is that let's get our insurance company to help pay for that and save them money too. So we're going to continue to navigate that.
Councilmember Rick?
Shauna, we had an ambulance damaged in an accident up on North I-25. Does this budget request cover the repairs to that ambulance or not?
It does not, because I haven't even gotten the estimate for repairs on that yet. The claim has been filed with insurance, though, so that is not included in this.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay. I have a question on the item 52-5220, about the tailgate spreader. It says it doesn't fit in the new vehicle. What are we doing with the old one? Is there any way to sell that and recoup some of the costs from that, or can it fit on a different vehicle, or?
I'm going to let Bob speak to that.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. So on that unit, S33 is the vehicle that was replaced. It was an old lease vehicle, replaced it with a new one. We replaced the vehicle, we actually added a lift gate to that vehicle, so it doesn't have a normal tailgate anymore, and that tailgate sander doesn't fit on there. The tailgate sander that was on there is probably only worth a couple $100.
Yeah.
It's an old sander. It's been around for probably 15 or 20 years, so it probably has very little value on the market. We could put it on the market and see if we get to it, and we plan on probably doing that. It is something right now that is still operational. It does break down frequently, so our thought was we were going to just kind of put it in a reserve, that it is something that we could end up putting on another vehicle. We were thinking about maybe donating it to parks also, if they could use it on some of their trails and things like that. But because it is such a small capacity sander, it literally only holds probably about maybe 100 gallons or 100 gallons worth of product, which isn't useful for a road anyway. It's meant more for parking lots and things like that.
Okay, I just didn't want to set to the side and sit there and rust until we get rid of it or something,
You bet.
so. Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions from anybody else? All right, what would council like to do with this? Councilmember Rick?
Move to approve Resolution 24-039.
Councilmember Hertzberg?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on Resolution 24-039. Any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Councilmember Applegate, how do you vote?
Yes.
I have 7 yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, that takes us on to item 10, City Council Agenda Requests. Councilmember Hinton or Hertzberg, do you have any requests? Councilmember Duncan? No? Councilmember Estes? Councilmember Rick? No? Okay. I have something that, thank you, Councilmember Applegate. Any agenda requests, Councilmember Applegate?
None at this time. Thank you.
Okay. I have something that I don't know if it's an agenda request or maybe it's a work session request, but I know, Todd, you've talked to probably a lot of us individually, right, about the thought of how it might make, because we've talked a lot about trying to make ourselves more user-friendly for businesses, and residents are trying to do things, and they're getting caught in the kind of the framework of not having a full planning department staff. And I know one of the ideas you've kind of thrown around for a super long time is potentially the ability of you to make some of those smaller decisions, if it's like inches or feet on something, it's not going to be real substantive. So they don't get stuck in the long process. This would be different from them appealing a decision. And it goes to the Mr. Ortega, trying to remember what we named that position. And I just wondered if council was interested in potentially having that more of a discussion, because some of the things I just kind of came up with off the top of my head were like, if somebody wants to put their chicken coop somewhere and it's like a foot off or 6 inches off, or like we just talked about, covers, right, for their vehicles or something, and solar panels, right? People are always putting solar panels on. I don't know, fences, if their fence is going to end up 6.5 feet high as opposed to 6 feet high where you don't need a permit. I don't know. I know we've talked about it internally, but is that something that council would like to pursue as an agenda request? We'd have to actually modify our code, right, Scott, to make that happen?
It could just be an add-on.
And I would feel comfortable it was done with oversight of the city manager, so that people didn't feel like you just kind of went out rogue on your own. But
As I've been known to do.
yeah,
as I've been known
that's
to.
why I'm dialing you back already, huh? Anyway, I don't know, is anybody else interested in that? Because we have talked about wanting to make it a little bit easier.
So first off, I wholeheartedly support bringing that up. And since we're on the subject, I need to relay a conversation that Todd and I had to the rest of the council. Can I use their name?
I don't even know what the
Let's
topic
not,
is.
let's not, yeah, just use the kind of example.
Okay. There's a company that's coming to town that wants to put up 5 signs. That's coming to town that wants to put up 5 signs.
Like on the one property,
Right,
okay.
okay? Currently, that is a violation of our sign code.
Because they want to do 5 individual signs, not like a big
Yes.
box sign, okay.
After reviewing it, both Todd and I feel that this is an appropriate use of 5 signs. It makes sense, okay? Todd has sent to our consultant a request to change the code, our ordinance, our sign ordinance, that will come back before council, but it's going to be probably the end of January before they can get to it. And the company needs an answer. Can they go forth with these signs or not? I told Todd I was okay with him going ahead as the zoning administrator and granting a waiver so we can get the signs going, considering that we were going to have a request coming to us in late January. And I was trying to be business friendly and say, yes, we want to support businesses. This makes sense going forward.
So there's another example for
That's an example
something
of,
that a zoning, if you had that authority as a zoning administrator, you could approve. I was just thinking of like the little ankle biter issues that are getting caught. I don't want our citizens who wants to do something to get caught.
It's a
They're
good
number
example of the ankle
53
biters
down
and
the
a big
way,
one.
so they go ahead and
Yep.
do it, and then we tell them they couldn't, so. So I'm just open, is anybody interested? So Scott, would that be an agenda item,
I
or?
think,
My recommendation would be a work session.
yeah, I would do that.
Just to
work session, 'cause
vet it out,
Yeah.
and flesh it.
Give us a lot of time,
Yeah.
we could shout examples,
Yeah.
Okay.
because you can't write a code for every situation.
Right,
But at the same time, you don't want to be putting the brakes on these business processes for every little ankle biter like these. Like, and these are great examples you guys have shared.
I would recommend a work session to flesh it out, vet it out first. Then it would come to, as an agenda item, once we get it kind of narrowed down to what specifically the
Yeah.
request would be.
can we work at business speed and not governmental speed? Which means like a little faster?
I'm ready to do it tomorrow if you guys want to get together.
No, we're not having a work session
Okay.
tomorrow, but we are having one next week. So, okay, everybody? Okay, all right, okay. All right, well, there you
And
go. That's why I
one thing
said I
I would
started off, I
recommend-
wasn't sure if it was an agenda request or, work session or.
I would recommend it'll be good if we can get our, another city attorney on board as well to be a part of that, because there's going to be some legal questions in terms of what we're able to do within the code to change it.
But we can go ahead with the discussion of the whole
Yes,
thing.
we can.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
you can relay to the new person. Okay, all right. All righty, okay. All right, that takes us on item 11. Ms. Joni, announcement of an executive session.
In accordance with this city charter and the Colorado Open Meetings Act, the City Council open session is to determine whether it will hold a closed executive session. A closed executive session may be held upon an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the quorum present. If consent of the closed executive session is not given, the items may be discussed in open session or withdrawn from the consideration. The purpose of the executive session pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-4024 for the purpose of review, approval, and amendment of the executive session minutes pursuant to CRS Section 24-6-4024B for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions regarding to an active incentive agreement. Mayor Thompson.
That's the motion from our city clerk to go into executive session. Yep, I was going to say, who would like to make a motion? Councilmember Estes.
I move we go into executive session.
Okay, Councilmember Hertzberg.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to go into executive session. Any further deliberation? Seeing none, please vote.
Councilmember Applegate, how do you vote?
Yes.
7 yes, motion carried.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. 7 o'clock.